Welcome to Sewing Thursday. I am, of course, T. You might know me from my sewing blog, Sewing by T, or my fabric shop, Simply Pie T, or maybe you just ended up here because you love sewing. No matter how you found my video, you are guaranteed to see some great stuff today. So as we are waiting for people to go ahead and get signed in and watching our video live, I want to make sure that you stop in and say hi so that I can see where people are coming from and know that good things are happening here. I am going to be talking today about three really important things, and they're all interrelated, which is really cool. So first up, I'm going to be doing a review of the Made for Mermaids Mama Stella, which is actually the shirt that I'm wearing right now. And I've got some really good fit tips for you and some things to know about that pattern and how I adjusted it for maternity. I'm going to be talking about how to do a pivot and slide adjustment on a t-shirt. Welcome, Crystal. Thank you for joining me live today. I'm going to show you how to do a pivot and slide adjustment on a t-shirt. Then I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't do a pivot and slide adjustment on a t-shirt. I mean, it can work, but it's a little bit of a slippery slope. So I'm going to make sure that I cover all of that for you. And then finally, of course, everybody loves the exposed back bralette thing that's been going on lately, and I absolutely love it, and maybe you don't want to buy a new pattern. So I'm going to show you how to do some really easy hacks to get you started and do some kind of fun things and exciting things and all of that good stuff. So without further ado, the first thing I'm going to do so that I can stop talking for a second, show you what I'm going to show you, and then talk about it. I'm going to actually turn around and show you the back of my Mama Stella. And I will stop talking because the sound will be really strange bouncing off the curtain behind me. So I'm going to go ahead and show that to you. Let's see. Okay, you guys can see. So if you watched my video on Monday, then you might recognize this bralette. This is the one that I had partially assembled. And I talked a lot about construction and the different ways that I adjust the pattern. So if you need a review of that, go back to Monday's video because it walks you through how I use our Pico trim, how to adjust the pattern, all of that good stuff. Not going into that today. Instead, I'm talking about the Mama Stella. So if you're familiar with Made for Mermaids, they do not use a numerical number chart. They use colors. So when I was picking my size, I made a blue, which, let me start over. My overbust put me directly in between blue and indigo. So depending on the fit I was looking for, I either needed to size down and get a tighter shoulder or size up and get a looser shoulder. Because the pattern was already oversized by a little bit, it's not huge, but it's already a little bigger, I went with the smaller size for my shoulders, and then I did a pivot and slide adjustment to fit my bust. The only thing that I did that was different from the pattern was that I needed to make room for this. So black is horrible to try to see for this. But there is ruching here on the side that I use to give myself a little bit of extra space to fit all of this. So I'm going to give you a really quick peek into what my pattern piece looked like for that. And so you can see about 3.5 inches from the top and about 3.5 inches from the waist. I put 2 marks. I added 2 inches in between here. And then all I did was gather between that and match it up to my back. I did straighten out this waist seam right here, but that I actually straightened it out to fit my pre-pregnancy waist size. And as you can see, there's still some space. As I get bigger, I'm going to get pulling in the back, but at this point, like, I can't see my back. So if you hate it, don't look at my back. So my overall opinion of this top. One, it is pretty oversized and it's really easy to end up with that back strap being too loose. So because I used the baby French terry from the shop, it's really light and soft, but that also means that my shoulders ended up just a little bit dropped. I could fix that by tightening the strap in the back, or I can pretend like I don't see it and call it good enough for this one. Oh, Caroline, I can turn around again. Hold on just a second. So I'm going to turn around so you guys can get another look at the back. And I can also pinch out and show you how I could pull the shoulders up by just tightening that strap. So when you're doing the strap across, if you do the strap across, you might want to test out how much tension you need to make sure that it holds tight. So let me turn around again. This little bit of tension right here is what I'm talking about. If I did that, then my shoulders sit where they belong. Okay, so I don't know if you heard me, but that little section that I pinched out right there, that is the difference between this sitting on my shoulder like it's supposed to and it falling off. So not a big deal, but if you're doing it, make sure that you tighten that up just a tiny bit, or try it on, pin it on, sew one side, and then adjust to the other side to get it tight enough. Who should buy this pattern? You're probably wondering, T, you could totally hack that. Why did you buy that pattern? One, I actually do not own a semi-fitted t-shirt. I know, it's a crazy thing to hear. I have lots and lots of patterns. But I tend to lean towards t-shirts that are very, very snug fitting. So I didn't have anything in this kind of loose, slouchy, comfy kind of thing. So that was number one reason why I bought the pattern. If you have a loose, slouchy t-shirt, you really can get away without buying the pattern, and I can talk you through how to hack the back, and I will do that later in today's video. But if you're either one, really lazy, and that is not intended as an insult, because I have bought many patterns because I was just like, you know what? I don't want to fiddle with that. I just want it done. So if that's you, then that is awesome, and buy the pattern. But if you have it's not even oversized. It's not skin tight, and skin tight is really what I generally wear. So if you have a t-shirt that's a little looser, then we can hack from there. And I'm realizing now that because I made black, which is, of course, my favorite color, and the best at hiding fit issues, it means that you won't be able to see the fit issues that I wanted to show you today. So as I said, I did a pivot and slide adjustment on the bust. I'm going to see if I can. Nope, you're not going to be able to see it. So there's a wrinkle that basically runs all the way down this arm into the armpit, and it's because I did a pivot and slide adjustment. A pivot and slide adjustment, and I will walk you through how to do the one. I've got this cutesy little front piece. Crystal's absolutely right. Sometimes it's just worth the money to buy the pattern and save yourself the trouble of figuring out fancy details. And if you really want to be sneaky, you take the fancy details and you smack it onto a pattern that you know fits. And that way you don't have to fit it, and you've got the pretty part that you wanted. So, you know, I am not beyond that. Caroline's saying she loves the fabric on my bralette. So it's actually the peach stretch lace from the shop, and then the navy floral rayon spandex. And I know you're probably thinking rayon spandex really isn't supportive, and it's true. Rayon spandex on its own would be a train wreck in a bralette. But between the stretch lace and the picot trim, everything holds together really nicely. Back to the pivot and slide adjustment. So I have this cute, tiny little pattern piece, and this is actually a doll t-shirt pattern from Peekaboo Pattern Shop. So if you need a free t-shirt pattern, they have one for an 18-inch doll, and it's perfect for demonstrations, but it's actually good for sewing for an actual doll. And I'm going to show you how to use a pivot and slide adjustment. So what do you need to do? I've got this nice little paper here. There we go. You can see I've got this pattern piece, and it's all I did was trace out the old one, and I've marked out the seam allowances up on the top shoulder, and at this line right here, I've marked out approximately 1/4 inch pivot. So when we're talking about a pivot and slide, there is a certain point at which you pivot and you distort your pattern piece so badly that it will no longer go together. And that amount is about an inch, which when you scale it down to the size works out to approximately 1/4 of an inch of a pivot. So to pivot and slide, you've got your traced out pattern piece, which you'll need, and you need your original pattern piece. And you're going to need 1 pin. Now, this is a lot easier to do down on the table, but then nobody can see it. And I've got 1 pin, and you're going to poke a hole through where this crosses, so right there at the center. Okay. Once you do that, you should have, it should look exactly like it's on top of each other. To pivot it, all you do is swing your pattern piece out, just like that. And like I said, you can pivot up to 1 inch and it'll work. After you've pivoted to here, you trace out your arm side and a little corner notch there so you know where to stop. You move your pin. I have to turn this around to do the second part. Can't see. You move your pin. Like I said, you'll be doing this flat on a table, not up in the air. And all you do is pivot your pattern piece back in. That's your pivot and slide, and when you've traced it all out, there we go. Looks just like this. Now, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with this adjustment. So assuming that you've picked your pattern size by your shoulders come to about there on the pattern. So this means you've added fabric in this section right here, which causes the wrinkles right in the armpit from a pivot and slide adjustment. So if you have a very tiny adjustment to do, this is really easy because you're only adding a 1/2 inch, a 1/4 inch to give that little bit of extra space. This works better on knits than it does on wovens, but you're going to always end up with too much. So how much too much? Let's really take a look. So if you put your pattern piece back on, you're going to see there's like all the way down in the armpit, there's fabric, and then you have this little notch out. Your alternative option is to do a slash and spread. So a slash and spread involves cutting into the arm side, marking your bust point, creating this fancy little dart. So let me show you the armpit because this is where it matters. If you've ever had to do a full bust adjustment, you know that this, without a full bust adjustment, is where you gap. So that's why it comes up right there. This means that this whole section of your arm, of the arm side, has no extra fabric. No extra fabric means you don't get funky things going in your armpit. The way this pinches up means this side seam matches perfectly. And it also gives you the extra length you need right here at center front, which is something that you need to fit over a large bust. So if we compare these two, you can see how this one is shorter in the front. It doesn't add the extra length that you need. And this one gets you wrinkling in the armpit. So when do I use this one? I use this one, let's camera focused again. I use this one when I'm feeling very, very lazy, or if I don't need the fit to be very good. So if good enough is good enough, then this is an acceptable adjustment. But you cannot pivot more than 1 inch. If you attempt to pivot more than 1 inch, you're going to end up with a big wad of fabric up here in your armpit. It's going to be uncomfortable, and it's not going to hang smoothly. And that defeats the whole purpose of doing any adjustments. You're better off just going up a size and dealing with shoulders that are too big. So that was the big thing. That's how you do a pivot and slide. I am not going to cover how to do a slash and spread because there is a lot of stuff to learn to get this right. That would take me probably a full half hour to walk you through where the bust point needs to go, where all the angles go, what to do with the dart when you're done. And I will do that at a live in some point. But knowing visually what happens, don't do this on woven garments. It just doesn't work. And if you care about what your armpit looks or feels like, you need to slash and spread. It's the only way to get it right. Okay, so we did all that. How do we hack and get pretty bralette backs? So lots of people think this is a really complicated process. We're going to use my same little pattern piece. And here's the things that you need to mark for yourself. We're going to pretend this is a back. It's not. The front is, the neckline's up too high. We're going to pretend like this is a front pattern piece. Okay? So what do you need to do? You need to have made the t-shirt that you like at least one time. And the reason for that is you're going to mark from your pattern or from your shirt onto your pattern. Now, in general, and this really comes down to your personal preference. In general, bralette backs come below your bra band line. So you have to figure out where that is on your body, okay? So let's just say that mine was a little bit longer. It looks about halfway. So I'll put a little mark right there. Focus. There we go. So I got my little mark right there. The only thing you have to do to add to this spot right here is if you want a V-neck, you make sure that you're marking from the seam allowance down, because you don't want to lose this part here that notches into your neckline. From here, little dot, focus, there we go. Little dot, and boom, you have the exact same V-back that I have right now. It is not rocket science, okay? So you just hacked, and now you have a V-back. Make sure that you're marking this as your lowest point, and then to figure out how far over, you can measure to get a baseline of how far you need to come across. I would add an extra inch to your width. Remember that we have to double for the fold line. And then pin it on, try it on, pull it tighter if you need it, especially if your fabric is soft, okay? And personally, I kind of hate V-necks because they're picky and you have to like really get them perfect. So I really like the way they did the rounded back. That was the crossover one. So how do you do that? First of all, you need your pattern piece. And this time, you need the whole one, okay? You're going to mark that same spot that you said was your low point, okay? You're going to grab from the seam allowance, bring it through the line somehow, and across to the other side, okay? So we get rid of all this over here, and you have your cross back that leaves the shoulders open, so you would still need a strap. All right, but let's say that's not the one you want. You want the one just like the pattern. All right, so I've got this nice empty side. We're going to do the same thing. Mark the low point, and this time we're going to cross over. We're going to cross over from this side, and we're going to include the neckline. Hold on. Let me look at my pattern piece again. Oh, where are you? Oh, I don't see it there. Hold on. Let me look at the pattern. Because visually it's not hard. All right. Okay, so we're going to start about halfway on the neckline. It's going to rock around and back and across. Like that. Here is your good pattern piece. Let me double check what I'm looking at. Yeah, so it includes all of this section, and you tether them right here at the center, and when you put your neckband on, it holds it all together. Okay, so adding pretty backs is really, really easy. You don't have to have this pattern. I mean, I paid my own money for this pattern. So clearly I like the idea and I didn't want to have to hack it myself, mostly because I'm pregnant and tired, and who wants to do that? I mean, like, I got 5 hours of sleep last night, so I am a train wreck. So who has questions? I know somebody was asking in the Facebook group today about whether I was going to talk about the faux leather again. And I talked about the faux leather last week, but if people have questions, I am absolutely available to answer them. But otherwise, I want to make sure that people are liking this video and sharing it with people that you think might be interested. I know that a lot of people are afraid of doing full bust adjustments, and the pivot and slide is a really good one to use to learn the difference between like really bad fit to like kind of okay fit but good enough, to kind of be that little stepping stone to get you to that full slash and spread. But remember what I said, it really changes how that arm fits. And so if you're one of those people that has been doing a pivot and slide and you keep going, but the arms don't feel good, it's because you need a slash and spread. You can only pivot and slide so far, and I really prefer to limit that to like a 1/2 inch pivot and slide as opposed to the full inch. The closer you get to that full inch, the tighter it gets in the armpit, and the more you have build up right here. Because just because you have a big bust doesn't mean that anything is happening in your shoulders. That's why you picked the size that you did, so it would fit your shoulders, but you're discounting your shoulders all through here when you do that. Rachel is saying that she did her first full bicep adjustment with the slash and spread. So slash and spread is basically the best fit adjustment you can do. And there's different ways to slash and spread it, but it's the only way to account for the 3 dimensions of your body. This type does not really account for 3 dimensions. You don't get enough space added in the length, and it pulls up into your armpit. It works. Like I said, it's great for really soft, stretchy fabrics that you don't care that much about fitting. But if you want it to be the best garment you've ever worn, then you have to do the slash and spread, because otherwise you get fabric in this armpit. That said, I totally did slash and spread on this because I was like, well, I can slash and spread this and I can fiddle with it. But the reality is I am going to wear this for the next few months, and it's going to start getting warmer here. So I'm going to stop wearing it altogether because I'm going to go, oh, I'm so hot, because that's what pregnant women do, right? We are always suffocatingly hot. I think it was 40 degrees outside, and I was like, I'm so hot, I'm going to open the window. So yes, for cheater adjustment, totally do it. Nellie here is thanking me for showing the pivot and slide versus the slash and spread. And you know, Nellie, a lot of people are scared of slash and spread. It isn't scary. I just don't have time to show you pivot and slide and slash and spread, because there's steps in here that you have to understand and know where to put things. But I can give you a really quick rundown. This point right here needs to be your bust point. This pivot area right here, they say, oh, just put it kind of wherever. And the reality is you want it about 1/3 down. I probably left this a little bit long. It could come down a little bit further. But the goal is that you don't want it digging into your armpit. So that part's easy. This vertical section is the space that you're spreading, and this is your little dart. Maria Denmark has an amazing blog post on how to rotate out that bust dart, to do it properly, because you do want, unless you want to put darts in your t-shirts, and I did put darts in t-shirts for a while because the fit was amazing until I learned how to rotate it back out. But it's really not scary, and the fit in the shoulders is so much better. Gosh, it keeps unfocusing. There we go. So don't be scared of slash and spread. But if you have questions, feel free to reach out because I spend a lot of time sitting at our kitchen table teaching my kids their homeschool stuff. And in between, there's a lot of time where I'm just sitting here waiting for them to do a math problem or read a book or do whatever thing they're supposed to be doing. So don't be scared to slash and spread. The worst case scenario is that you ruin it and you have to start over. But remember, every chance that you do one is a chance to do it faster and to learn from that process. So now that I've covered pivot and slide, doing little back hacks and stuff to your patterns, fabric shop updates. Our stretch faux leather is officially on its way today. And there's a little story that goes behind that. We decided to add the quilted knits into that order, and they had set fabric aside for us, and then they could not find the black on black quilted knit. So if you ordered the black on black, I will be reaching out tomorrow to anybody who ordered the black on black so that we can offer substitutions for it or shop credit or whatever you think is going to work best. As far as substituting out the black on black, all the other colors, though, are on their way. We've got the stretch faux leather and our galloon lace is in there. And unfortunately, I don't have really good photos of those. And I kind of purchased trusting that my distributor is understanding what it is that I need and going to send us the really good stuff. So those, as soon as they get here, I will be spending time to photograph and get them up into the shop, and they will be able to be added to current pre-orders. Now, Shalini is asking if it's a good idea to download the quarter size templates and practice. And absolutely. I mean, the pivot and slide will take you like 2 minutes to master. And let me tell you where pivot and slide is really good. It doesn't fit the shoulder very well, but what it does do is allows you to fit anything from here down very, very well. Because if, like me, your body is more like this than the beautiful hourglass that most people have, you can pivot out for your waist, bring it back in for the hip, and round that all out. And this is a fabulous tool to really practice fitting. So if you want to try slash and spread, try slash and spread with a quarter size pattern piece, and you want me to take a look and say, did I basically do this right? I can take a look and tell you, yeah, that looks mostly right. The hardest part is matching this bust point on patterns that don't include a bust point. The reality is on a knit garment, it's not that like detailed. And if you're off by a little bit, nobody's going to notice on your slash and spread. So it's a good place to practice. Usually woven patterns have the bust point mark, so you don't have to like guess. You do have to figure out where your bust point is in relation to their bust point. And that involves moving a dart, but that's another even further complicated topic. Whew, well, it looks like I got long-winded again, and I am so sorry. I keep trying to get these down to 15 minutes, and then I get excited and we start talking about stuff, and I want to make sure that everybody gets everything that they need to know. So, quick rundown. Like I said, I will be sending out emails tomorrow to anybody who ordered the black on black quilted knit. We have to do substitutions. And if you ever have a question or need to know something, please reach out because I love answering sewing questions. Thank you for joining me. Be sure that you hit like and share this video for any sewing friends that might enjoy it. And otherwise, I will see you next week.